Hello Warband enthusiasts! My top 15 gameplay tips and tricks video for Mount and Blade Warband was exceedingly successful, quickly becoming my most successful video I've ever made. It offers basic to moderate tips, mostly highlighting hidden or useful features that newcomers and some veterans may not know about. However, there are many more tips that I forgot to add and that other players commented in my video. This video should serve as hopefully even lesser known tips that I hope all players will find helpful, but realize that it may also contain a lot of common knowledge for veterans. While though I hope experienced players find it useful, it is geared primarily towards newcomers. Again, it ranges from some basic tips and suggestions to more complex features and mechanics that most may be unaware of. I've tried to make it as concise and as informative as possible, and ended up adding an additional 5 tips over my last video that I found very useful. As always, timestamps for each of the tips will be in the description. Anyways, without further rambling, let the tips begin. To begin with, a very nice time saver, when moving items in your inventory, holding down Control and left clicking will transfer an item instantly instead of having to rely on dragging and dropping. Likewise, holding down Control and left clicking the upgrade button for your units will upgrade as many as possible to that troop type, and you can do the same with releasing or capturing prisoners. On the battlefield, you can hold down F1, which will create a pop-up banner that you can move around while holding down F1. When you release F1, the selected troop types will go to hold the position where you release the banner. This is immensely useful, as when I was new to the game, I thought I had to physically run to the position and issue orders from there instead. Being able to order from afar really makes a difference in effectively commanding. It is unwise to start a faction if you do not possess enough right to rule, as this will typically cause factions to declare war on you for little reason other than you're an easy target and lack right to rule. Having a low right to rule will cause other lords to disrespect you, finding you as a renegade, whereas having a high right to rule will cause them to respect you, and more likely to join your faction. Right to rule can be improved by sending companions out to spread the word about you, and with this, having high charisma and persuasion increases success, making peace with a faction, getting married, and recruiting another lord. It may vary based on if you have any mods, but typically greater than 50 right to rule will cause other lords to respect your claim. A simple tip, but one that many overlooks, is that you can completely customize what you do or do not see on the battlefield. You can disable the kill feed, which often clogs up the screen and lags out during big fights, as well as disable damage and toggle friendly banners to appear or not. While though this makes you less aware of how well or poorly the fight is going, it overall makes for a cleaner and more immersive experience. An interesting game mechanic that many may not know of, your company's morale is negatively affected by having troops originally from a faction that you are now at war with. Interestingly enough, fighting too many times a day also causes morale loss. On top of this, prisoners also cause morale loss, so if your morale keeps falling, either of these may easily be the culprit. The loyalty you have with a particular village greatly affects the amount and quality of troops you can hire. If your relation is 0 to 3 with the village, they offer 0 to 8 recruits. If your relation is 4 or more, then it is divided by 2 and added to 6 to create a maximum. Additionally, every 10 relation allows one higher tier of troops, albeit at a 10% chance. Therefore, theoretically at a level 40 relation, you could recruit up to 26 troops at a decent tier at a time. Something I never knew till someone commented it, and something that a few may find useful: immediately force your horse to stop moving in combat by pressing Ctrl plus J. This may be useful if you're unable to evade something or just want to stop moving. Whether you find it helpful or not, it's a fun tip. Arguably, Trainer, Surgery, and Wound Treatment are the best skills you can level up throughout your playthrough. Surgery ultimately makes your army almost immune to losses if you can level it up enough, as it affects if your soldiers are knocked out instead of killed, which is immensely helpful when you have upper tier troops that take time to level up. Wound Treatment, while though less useful but still very nice, is great to have as it recovers your wounded soldiers much quicker so you can begin fighting as soon as possible once again. And Trainer is incredibly useful as it stacks with your companions. When you and your companions have a high trainer level, you can level up raw recruits to top tier soldiers within a few days without any fighting. However, since Trainer only affects troops that are a lower level than the person training, focus on intelligence and other skills first in yourself and your companions. Related to the last tip, since experience is distributed amongst all troops of one type, wait until upgrading to the last tier until all soldiers are ready to do so. This way everyone still gains XP. It's faster and cheaper than upgrading individually, although you do lose some possibly elite fighters in the battlefield while you wait. Never garrison troops that have experience in between upgrades, as this will cause them to lose their earned experience. Something most may know, and some may not, renown affects your party size. This is partly what allows kings to have parties of over 300. Every 25 renown increases the party size by 1, which may seem like a lot, but it quickly adds up. Additionally, owning a castle or becoming marshal increases party size by 20 each, and becoming king increases party size by a massive 100. Prosperity is a mechanic I never really thought of, and rather something I take for granted. Prosperity is a measurement of settlement wealth, affecting the tax revenue and slightly affecting prices of goods sold there. It is positively affected by helping out with economic quests and by letting farmers and caravans arrive to and from. It is adversely affected in the opposite way, if a village is attacked or a town besieged, and if the farmers and caravans traveling are attacked and do not reach their destination. Damage types is another thing I've rarely considered, and many others may not think of. Each weapon in Warband have a damage type, either C, cutting, P, pierce, or B, blunt. Cutting, from slashing, do bonus damage against light armor targets but lower damage against high armor. Piercing, typically from bows, crossbows, and spears, have high armor penetration and do not typically lose effectiveness against lightly armored targets. Finally, blunt damage, such as swinging or thrusting hammers or maces, have the highest armor penetration, but low damage against low armor. However, blunt weapons always knock out targets, making it a reliable and excellent way to capture prisoners. A blunt weapon can also knock a target over. On top of this, the weapon weight affects attacking someone who is blocking. If a high weight weapon strikes a low weight weapon, it can cause a stun, causing an inability to return a strike. Likewise, the weapon weight also affects the block crushing threshold of weapons. Couched lance damage is something I'm embarrassed to say I took a long time to figure out, primarily because I thought I wasn't timing things right with readying my weapon. However, all you have to do to cause couched lance damage is not to try readying an attack. If set to automatic in the options, which is default, it automatically lowers the lance when you're up to speed and you merely have to aim with your mouse to cause the damage. Couched lance damage can cause insane damage and ignores weapon directional blocks. Party speed is something often overlooked. It is affected by your party size, mounted party size, weight, the amount of spare horses you have in your inventory, prisoners, and by weather, night, through force, and hilly terrain. You can counteract the effects of the weight of trade goods and items in your inventory with any type of spare horse in your inventory. If your overall weight is less than 10, one horse is enough. It is a very odd ratio though, as 5 horses is enough to counteract 300 weight, whereas 1,000 weight can be counteracted by 13 horses. Speed is obviously immensely important to succeed, as it lets you run away or catch up to anyone you need to, or simply get around faster. Wounded party members surprisingly heal faster in taverns, and you only have to pay half wages to your troops while you're staying in a town or castle, making paying the low wages to stay overnight easily worthwhile to get that quicker heal or save some cash. Shield stats affect a few things. For one, the weight affects overall encumbrance and the speed you move on the battlefield by foot. The size, of course, affects how much it physically protects, potentially only protecting the upper body or protecting the entire body. The resistance level of a shield affects how much damage the shield takes when it takes damage. For example, a blade hitting a 0 resistance shield for 20 damage will do 20 damage, whereas if it hits a 10 resistance shield, it will only do 10 damage to the shield. Resistance can be ignored, however, by certain weapons like axes. Claimants are something I personally have only dabbled with once or twice due to their nature, but they can offer a very interesting experience if you follow through, giving you more of a goal and challenge to your game. On the plus side, helping will cause you to become an immediate vassal, and if you completely eliminate the faction you are rebelling against, you can become a permanent marshal should you choose to accept it. However, it is going through nearly as much work as setting up your own kingdom, but again, it is a fun way to spice up and prolong your campaign. Marriage is an excellent way, and somewhat necessary way, to rise in power as a lord. It opens up new quest opportunities to prevent lords from defecting, establish a claim to the throne, improve lord relations, and give a household inventory to store items. The best way to find a spouse is to start by attending feasts and tournaments and dedicating victories to that person. You can also learn poems in taverns that improve your relation. However, not all women will be so inclined to your love. It will not like you in return. To guarantee a proposal acceptance, you have to have 20 relation. If you're a woman, the process is similar, but if you marry, you immediately become a vassal of your spouse's faction. Feasts are an immensely useful and somewhat necessary mechanic, as when you speak to any lord that attends the feast, it will grant a +2 relationship bonus for simply talking to the lord every day the feast lasts. Keeping relations high is critical in maintaining a stable kingdom, as tedious as it may be. When hosting a feast, make sure you have at least 4 of each food, 4 of each drink, 2 or more spice, and 1 or more oil for it to be magnificent. Lastly, if you have not downloaded mods, you have not even scratched the surface of Warband. The hundreds of mods add a tremendous amount of content to Warband and is what has kept such an old game still so popular. Although a potentially silly tip, mods can change your opinion about Warband in a massive way. What was once a game I thought was dull and difficult, mods made so much more interesting. Thank you all so very much for listening and staying as long as you have. I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I did making it and found at least some of the tips useful. I greatly appreciate your feedback, no matter its tone, and would love to hear what you think of how I did and how I can improve. Have any more tips? Want to expand in anything I said? Mention it in the comments. Once again, thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. The days are short, the moments are sweet.